December 2020. Happy New Month to you, Sumbo.
Happy New Month.
Yes, thank you for joining. How has been your 2020? Describe your 2020 in
Ooh.
3 words. 3 words.
Eventful.
1.
Shocking and unprecedented.
Those are strong terms to use. Shocking and unprecedented. It's been a pretty rough ride this year. I'm not sure anybody had a prior experience to what 2020 was going to look like, because everybody was very positive, optimistic about how business should be, where to go to, and all of that. But then this is what we have to deal with. It's funny how we made plans at. I'm just remembering end of 2019. I still remember being on the radio end of 2019 and looking at 2020 with so much prospects.
Dan, let me throw in a bit of the spiritual here. You know how it is when we go for the watch night services and different churches declare it will be the year of.
All of those things. Yeah.
And in my church, it was, the tag for the year was the year of, my year of immeasurable grace. And that kind of got me scared, in quote, because from my experience, when the Lord begins to talk about grace, it means that there's something you're going to have to need that grace for. So I began to ask myself, what's it about this year that, this grace thing, I'm a bit worried, a bit, and so when things began to unfold, I said, okay.
It is really the year of immeasurable grace.
Because it's only grace that could have gotten you out of it in one piece.
We all have our fair stories to share with regards to what has happened in the coronavirus. And with the coronavirus pandemic globally, there's still a lot of conversations around it. People are still testing positive to the coronavirus and people are still dying. The world has lost over 1-something million people from this pandemic. And Nigeria alone has lost about 1,100 and I think 50 people from this pandemic. So these are very scary times. Please let's not discredit the pandemic as much as possible. I know when we enter December, we always think of celebrating. We always think of how we can enjoy ourselves. But if you have friends and relatives in the United States, in countries that have high rates of the spread of the pandemic, of the coronavirus pandemic, please do well. Please do well to tell them to to remain there. You can Skype. They can come in maybe next year when everything is looking easy. I know our people like to always travel back home in December. Let us also, find our ways to recreate that experience without necessarily traveling a lot. We like traveling. We like, going through the whole year and just going back home to celebrate with the ones that we really love. But this year is different. If you can't avoid traveling, please do well to avoid it. Send money home. Make longer call conversations. Stay longer on the phone.
Dan, I don't think you really need to do much of appealing to people in terms of traveling. I'm not sure you're going to see many people crisscrossing the country, this year, because there are just too many things to consider. Apart from the fact that it's been a very tough time for people financially, the security situation is also nothing to write home about. So you want to use your head and stay in a place where at least there's some degree of confidence, so for me, that should be the things that are uppermost in the minds of people. Crisscrossing Nigeria by road now is tough. And people in the northern side began to run to go and take the train. And what do you see? You see the train stopping in the middle of nowhere and needing repairs. That itself, so I think that for most people, if it's not absolutely necessary, stay where you are.
All right, let's go straight into the dailies this morning. You can be part of the newspaper review. All you have to do is send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070-317-56537 this morning to be part of the newspaper review. We have the Punch, we have the Guardian, this day newspaper. We also have with us the pen pushing this morning. All right, I start off with the Punch newspaper. It says, Iraq Research Institute, federal government warns against Christmas carol, tells Nigerians abroad to stay away. EFCC rearranges ex-secretary to the government of the Federation, Babache Lawal, for 544 million naira grass cutting fraud. And also EFCC rearranged ex-MD airline Kayode Odukoya for 2.1 billion naira fraud. And Kano Assembly approves Governor Abdullahi Ganduje's 20 billion naira loan request. The Guardian paper has the headline, Blame Game as Borno buries victims. I'm very furious about that particular story, though. Avoid frivolous trips to vulnerable nations. Presidential Task Force warned 19 support from federal government. And oil no longer sustainable, Kogi Commissioner warns. And the River State OK's 448 billion naira 2021 budget, 2 billion naira for council poll. Governor Kowa signs 2021 budget of 383 billion naira. Federal government connects 40,000 Nigerians to solar mini grid projects. And Kano Assembly approves Governor Abdullahi Ganduje's 20 billion naira loan. Is a business. And Nigeria is still the highest country with the number of HIV and AIDS patients. All right. I think about 1.8 million Nigerians are living with HIV and AIDS. That's a figure in Africa, the highest in Africa, actually. And also here, the Nation newspaper, court OK suit seeking CBN to account for pandemic donation. And Governor, Senators, Police Service Commission orders seek rejig of security architecture. And federal government pays 2,186 firms under payroll support, says Minister. And governors helpless in insecurity, says Governor Nasiru El-Rufai. Very sensitive statements yesterday made by Governor Nasiru, granted on channel. Saw a clip of it, and he made some very confronting statements about the state of security. And those are things that, it puts us in a part where it looks like we don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, we don't even know if we are even in Nigeria. Sometimes when I hear some very high-ranking statements, very sensitive statement from people. I think there's a new stream. Yes, from last year. A batch is coming out today. Is it today or tomorrow? I think today. A batch is going to be leaving camp. Or they have left camp yesterday. Well, I don't know. Villagers kick as Ogun State government demolishes houses and shrines. And police brutality, widow begs panel to financially assist her. These are the headlines on the dailies this morning. Let's get going with the dailies. We're going to start off with the Borno massacre. And 45 farmers go to their farm and they were massacred. And, the regular thing we expect to hear is what we have seen, the blame game. Now, the ACF PDP orders attack federal government presidency, presidency offers excuses and blames farmers. That's the headline on the Punch. But I think one of the dailies this morning put it that the presidency, always the presidency, criticize killed Borno farmers for farming without military clearance. That's the headline on the Guardian newspaper. So I want to read the date on the Guardian before going to their farms. Presidential spokesman Garba Shehu said the farmers should have is in total control of those areas. Did anybody ask to resume activities? I have been told by the military leaders that they have not been so advised. Shehu told BBC in an interview, not been cleared for the return of villagers who have been displaced. Ideally, all the people ought to probably be allowed to pass the test of military clearance before settlers or even farmers resume activities on their field. About 53 farmers were killed by Boko Haram in Zambamari, about 20 kilometers from Maiduguri on Saturday, and were buried on Sunday amid tears in the community. The United Nations described the killing as the most violent attack target at civilians in 2020. The United Nations still also report it as, I think about 110 persons were killed. And this is actually worrying when we look at this. Now, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Sunday expressed grief over the killings of farmers on the rice farm and in the Jerry local government area of Borno State, describing the terrorist killing as insane. His words, Mr. President, I condemn the killings of hardworking farmers by terrorists in Borno State. The entire country is hurt by these senseless killings. My thoughts are with the families in this time of grief. These are the words of President Muhammadu Buhari. Yesterday, the headline on the Punch newspaper, read in detail, specifically said that there were intels that there was going to be an attack. Military came and carried out a patrol. Now, Gambari comes on the papers today, appear on the foreign media, telling us that they did not get military clearance. Whereas yesterday on the paper, reports from villagers who live in that community, which is peculiarly known for rice farming, said there were intels that there was going to be an attack. Military came to that area, did patrol, and left. After the military left, the attack happened. How do we put these words to? How do we make sense of this information?
Okay. So first and foremost, it's a sad occurrence, and I couldn't bring myself up to watch the funeral because it was all over the television yesterday. I just blocked it out, because these days one needs to be conscious of one's mental state. There are too many traumatic things going on. However, I listened to Shehu Garba or Garba Shehu, whichever comes first, in the interview that he had on Arise TV last night, where he was trying to explain himself and saying that, journalists have a way of, bringing out part of what you say to make sensational headlines to sell their papers. However, his attempt, to explain what he actually meant didn't really go down well, because there wasn't any difference from what the papers reported and what he was even still saying on that in that interview. He said that the Borno State, that side of Borno State, was under military operations. But for me, Dan, I really don't know when we're going to get out of this, in the sense that government officials seem to have lost their sensitivity, seem to not even know when to speak and what to speak. You understand what I'm talking about? Here, it doesn't even matter. Let's even say that it is true that you ought to have gotten some clearance and you didn't get the clearance and we went there on your own. Let's assume that stupidity, okay? In quote. When you see the way these people were murdered, they were actually beheaded, their throats slit, and all of that. I do not think that it was circumspect for him to have come out to make that statement in view of the, of the harrowing experience, in view of the type of death, and in view of the numbers. You understand what I'm talking about? Because the question is, if he had a family member amongst them, would he have been comfortable enough to make that excuse and say, oh, he didn't get clearance and all of that? And that brings me again to, I need to call out a set of people this morning on radio. You would find out that the people who often come to make excuses, or to address the nation on behalf of the federal government when these things happen, are journalists. Garba Shehu, his opening statement when he was going to respond to the question on Arise TV last night was the fact that he also is a journalist. So you have him as a journalist. Femi Adesina is a journalist. Lai Mohammed, as it were, I think is also a journalist or something in the public relations office and all of that. So the question is, what is their understanding of the profession? Okay? Because here we are. You are a journalist sitting here, whether you like it. Okay? Because here we are. You are a journalist sitting here, whether you like it or not. You are in the, in the media world. Space. Is there not something called controls in terms of how how you report, how you make responses? Is diplomacy not supposed to be part of what journalists are trained on? Do you understand the presentation? Even when facts are facts, there's a way you present it to not stir up the public, to anger and all of those things. So you begin to ask yourself, I look at some of these people and I ask myself, when this term that they are holding office ends, do they think of the fact that they are going to return to our side? Because they're on the other side now. Okay, are they going to return to our side, or they are going to sit in Abuja and die there? That's that's one part. I don't know. That brings me again to another thing. The truth of the matter, Dan, is that The government has lost all sense of direction. The government does not have the answer to terrorism. And it's not even just terrorism that is upon us. We have Boko Haram. Now we have what we call bandits. Kidnappers are there. And so the average Nigerian is left to the whims and caprices of all this. And so the military itself is not safe. The military itself, finds itself in a position where it's going into battle. You are telling me that, who is the person responsible for not selling arms to you? Is it only one country in the world that is selling arms? So there are of government officials who ought to know better. So what I know is, what I feel is the fact that Nigeria has lost grip on the security situation, either because they themselves what's the word now? The words fail me. They themselves are a part of this trouble, of this problem. They have their fingers in it. It's either that or, they just don't have what it takes to keep us secure.
It's funny because I'm thinking top of my head right now. Garba Shehu goes on an international interview and say that, these farmers didn't get military clearance. Yesterday's report says military came and patrolled. What happened to military telling them to go home?
When they went home.
When they went home.
Yeah, because whenever they are doing the harvesting, the military is there with them. Watching them. So there's nothing.
So there is still so much. And
we are on our own.
Lai Mohammed on this is the This Day newspaper. He says here that federal government yesterday attributed the delay in effectively routing Boko Haram, which it said it had technically defeated, to global powers that are blocking Nigeria's moves to acquire weapons to fight terrorism and win insurgency war.
Excuse me, Dan. Nigerian leaders are irresponsible. I would always blame everybody. You understand? Like some people say as a joke, if their wives don't get pregnant, you understand, it's somebody else's fault. Okay? So they would always, and they don't even have a sense of shame. Because the West, we just look at us and be laughing, and they would look. Why wouldn't they be justified to call us monkeys? Because sometimes the way we behave, the type of things that come out of our mouths, points to the fact that, are we normal human beings? Are we capable of, intellectual thinking at all? Do we have logic?
In terms of statement, because one of the things I want to quote Lai Mohammed this morning, he says, Nigeria has made attempts to acquire better and more effective platforms to deal with terrorists, and for one reason or the other, we have been denied this platform, and without adequate, we would remain at the mercy of terrorists.
Who denied them? What are the attempts that they have made that we have heard of? Okay, so if you know that don't you leave the government? This was one of your cardinal promises that got you into the office in the first instance. Okay, so I don't understand. Now, one of the things, of course, that we've been touting also is the fact that the northern borders are there, unsecured. And I remember reading, sometimes when something continues, you want to begin to ask yourself questions, and you look at the other sets for anybody to go in and come in. What does that signify? So for me, as far as I'm concerned, the Nigerian government begins to be complicit in this Boko Haram terrorist issue.
Former Minister of Education, Obieze Kwesili, on the papers this morning has actually called for with his duties of his office. Kwesili asked that a medical panel be set up to assess the president, noting that the condition of the country has become too grave for citizens to sit still. The former minister, who made the call yesterday on her verified Twitter page, said that the State House physician should not be trusted to provide accurate information, hence the need for an independent panel. This were her words. He says, I think that at this stage and depth of fragility of the Nigerian state, privacy has to yield ground to our right to know as citizens the state of health of Buhari. We really must physical and mental capacity presidents to carry out on his duties. Citizens can collectively push for an independent panel to help us make this critical medical determination of the state of mind and the body of President Muhammadu Buhari. What's your thoughts on Obi Kwesili?
Yeah, which you can become the president of Nigeria or a leader of any, is that you must be of sound mental health.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the reasons by which you can be asked to quit the seat is if there's something wrong, excuse me, with your mental health, you know, soundness of mind and all of that. So Obi is not asking for anything out of place, but the problem is who is going to bail the cart? I mean, knowing who we are as Nigerians, who is going to be that person that will say, okay, let's go. So it's something that she has said, it's something that will get us talking and gisting, as I put it, but nothing is going to be done about it.
All right, 26 minutes past 8. This is still the newspaper review. I have some more at the with me this morning on the newspaper review. This is still the newspaper review. I have some more at the with me this morning on the newspaper review. My name is Daniel Adaja. To be part of this conversation, all you have to do is send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070-317-56537. 070-317-56537. You can also tweet at us this morning at WFM917 on Twitter, and I definitely do my best to make sure that I read up your tweets this morning on the newspaper review. All right, we go straight into still talking about some more great headlines, but I think I just want to take a moment to celebrate Nigerian-born Adeyemo, or deputy who Biden has appointed as Deputy Treasury Secretary. The United States President-elect, Mr. Joe Biden, yesterday unveiled Nigerian-born Adewale Adeyemo as the deputy. Was appointed as the president of Obama's Foundation in 2019 and would work with Janet Yellen, nominee for the position of Treasury Secretary, according to Wall Street Journal. I think Nigerians are doing exploits in and home and abroad, which is something we must celebrate our own. But fine. How come our finest of brains have been employed in other countries, given appointments in other countries?
Yeah, because there's the situation in the country is not conducive for them to use their potentials. Nigeria is a nation that kills, you know, its potential. So that shouldn't be news to us now. However, the interesting thing to me is I begin to laugh when Nigeria begins to quickly lay claim to the fact that such persons are Nigerian. Is that guy a Nigerian? I don't think so. You understand? He's a Nigerian by name. I'm not sure he can speak any Nigerian language.
So
he's not going there to He's not going there to represent Nigeria. He's going there to represent his nation, America, that is very much proud of. So let's stop all this.
I say this a lot when we talk about one of these famous boxers. That's Anthony Joshua. And I see him come down to Nigeria.
No, he's Anthony
Nigerian
Joshua.
born. He's Nigerian
born.
No,
apart from the fact that he's Nigerian born, he went to school here. He went to Mayflower School.
Yes.
And if you went to Mayflower School, you cannot have that what do you call it, colonial mentality in you. Taisholani removed all that nonsense from them. So if you went to a school like that, you are a true Nigerian. You are a true individual, ready to hold your own. Remember, it was being guided clearly that he was a thoroughbred Nigerian. You know, so Anthony is different. There's he aligns with a lot of things in Nigeria. He associates with the nation, but not this guy. His name is Wale, has become Wally. Let's not go there. We celebrate him anyhow.
We do celebrate with him. It's important to and I think somehow they're pointers to what we can do better with our own people here, because I look at a lot of Nigerians who are representing other countries, you know, in various fields.
Nigerians
a lot of fields
do fantastically well
in various fields. You know, one of the
outside this country, because everything is available for them to function and to succeed. Okay, Nigeria has the bane of Nigeria is that it's like they don't even want you to succeed. You get to the universities, you have a brilliant chap in the university, and a lecturer say, "Oh, you want to have an A? You can't have an A," you know, and would deliberately make sure you don't score that A.
I think you mentioning that now. I'm hoping that someday in the future I'll be able to sit down with those kind of lecturers, because I particularly know a few lecturers who were popular for making such statements in the university.
I had a lecturer who said that to me, that you think you can't get an A in my course, so that A is for geniuses, and by the time they are 13 years old they are dead. So, and you are already past that age, you can't get A in my, so don't even bother. You understand? They take pride in ensuring that your light does not shine. But abroad, when you get a student who is a little bright, the professor, the lecturers are all over this person and finding ways of helping the child.
That child.
Give you a very practical one. I told you my daughter graduates on Thursday.
Yes.
She came out with a 2-1, 4.43 GPA. 4.5 is a first class. 0.07, not 0.70, 0.07 cut her short. Now, every family member and friend abroad who heard were like, what's the meaning of that nonsense?